Hey there, ho there! It's Jeff Cutter Diamond here with a Wrestlemania YouTube video special called 30 Years of Wrestlemania. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I reviewed all 30 Wrestlemanias, and I've picked the good, the bad, and the ugly side of each Wrestlemania moment. Now there are a few lists of what the best Wrestlemania of all time is, and I'm going to back away from that, so... Anyway, so these are my good, bad, and ugly from each WrestleMania. So for each WrestleMania, I'll read off the WrestleMania and where it took place, and then I'll say the good, the bad, and the ugly, and make some comments, okay? Alright, number 1, WrestleMania 1, New York City, Madison Square Garden. The good, Andre the Giant in the $15,000 Body Slam Challenge. Now, going into this match, Andre the Giant didn't have a lot of hair. Like, he used to have a lot of hair, but then Big John Studd and Bobby the Brain Heenan ripped the hair off his head. So, anyway, Andre had a body slam Big John Studd in order to keep his career going, because if he had lost the body slam challenge, he would have to retire from professional wrestling. And of course, Andre beat Studd and tried to throw the $15,000 out to the fans, but Bobby the Brain Heenan interfered and took the money. The bad. Hulk Hogan, well, some say the Hulk Piper matchup was good and all that, but there was an incident pre-WrestleMania that Hulk Hogan and Mr. T were on this show called Hot Properties with Richard Belzer, and all of a sudden, Hulk does a wrestling move. Belzer said he wanted to be part of the camel clutch, but of course that's not Hulk's move, and that was dangerous. So Hulk decides to give a chin lock to Richard Belzer. Of course, Belzer got knocked really unconscious, and he ended up suing the WWF for an out-of-court settlement. And the ugly was SD Jones and his match against King Kong Bundy. It was definitely a squash match. I mean, why would you have a squash match in a WrestleMania? That is just pathetic. So anyway, the match was set for 9 seconds. Like, people say it's 9 seconds, but if you look at the match, like from the bells, it was about 21 to 25 seconds. I don't know why they say 9 seconds. Kind of stupid. WrestleMania 2 took place in 3 venues. I'll talk about them in one of the 3 categories. Well, the good of WrestleMania 2 was Hulk Hogan beating King Kong Bundy in the steel cage in Los Angeles to win the title. So, yeah. Hulk, of course, being injured legitimately by King Kong Bundy and Don Morocco. He ended up winning the title for some reason. Points also go to Mr. T defeating Roddy Piper and on Long Island, and then in Chicago, the 20-man Battle Royal that Andre won. Those are big honorable mentions. The bad is when the Jake the Snake beat George Wells in Chicago, or was it Long Island? No, it was in Long Island. And then he put Jake the Snake put Damien on George Wells. Of course, Snake was a heel at that time, or a bad guy. George Wells went into convulsions or something like that. Legitimately. And then the ugly side was the 3 venues. I mean, focus on one venue. I mean, Long Island, New York. Why would they have a wrestling thing? Chicago, of course, that's the Roosevelt Coliseum, or now known as the Allstate Arena, will take part in 2 more WrestleManias. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Sports Arena would actually host one more. So, WrestleMania. You should have stuck it to 1 venue only. WrestleMania 3 in Pontiac, Michigan at the Silverdome. The good was Hulk's win over Andre the Giant. Of course, there was some controversy saying that, of course, it was fixed because Andre the Giant was suffering his health effects. And also, if you look at a YouTube video, I can't remember who the guy was, but he put the tribute to men who have body slammed Andre the Giant. Is that Andre the Giant? WWE claimed that he was body slammed. He was never body slammed before '87, but he was body slammed several times in different promotions, like in Japan by the great Antonio Inoki, in Austria by Otto Wanz, and even by Hulk Hogan back in 1980. when he was brawling with Andre as a heel. So yeah, that was kind of the bad luck about it. The bad of this was, of course, King Kong. The bad of WrestleMania 3 was King Kong Bundy's midget squash, when he squashed a midget wrestler. The only time midget wrestling was in the WWE. I think they banned that for years after. And the ugly is Adrian Adonis' character. Now I know that King Kong Bundy squash should be in the ugly side, and the bad should be Adrian Adonis. But Adrian Adonis, as a veteran wrestler, back in the 1980s, when it was still fair to criticize homosexuals and all that, we still have problems with that in 2015, but less. It's less of a problem now. WrestleMania 4 took place at Atlantic City at the Trump Plaza. Of course, WrestleMania 5 also emanated from them. So WrestleMania 4, the good was Macho Man's tournament win. Like the background was that they had a 14-man tournament match because Andre beat Hulk unfairly in February 1988 in a thing called the main event at Indianapolis' Market Square Arena. And anyway, Ted DiBiase, who wanted the title belt from Hulk Hogan for some odd reason, aligned himself with Andre the Giant to get the belt. And of course, Andre surrendered it to Ted DiBiase because that was the only thing that Andre was good for, was to give DiBiase what he wanted. So anyway, Roddy Piper. So anyway, the title was vacated by Jack Tunney, one of the few good decisions he had. So they had a 14-man matchup. Andre and Hulk were given first-round buys. Like, they would fight each other in the second round. And of course, they got themselves... Oh, well, that leads us to the bad. The bad of WrestleMania 4 was the double DQ of Andre and Hulk for using a chair against each other. Now, I think Hulk had a disqualification like merit against Andre the Giant. That meant if Andre was smart and didn't use the chair on Hulk, Andre would have got through. And of course, it was kind of storylined because, of course, Ted DiBiase ended up getting a bye into won his second round match and got to the semifinals and got a bye to the finals. Of course, he didn't want to fight Andre. It could have been Hulk against DiBiase, and that would have been a better match. But of course, Andre and Hulk, the double disqualification. And of course, Macho Man's win was huge. Hulk Hogan was involved in that. And the ugly of WrestleMania 4 was actually Bret Hart being a bad sport. Although he turned face. He was a heel for a while, and then he turned face when he beat up on Bad News Brown and destroyed the trophy. But destroying a trophy is just terrible, no matter what. WrestleMania 5, the good is, of course, the storyline between Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. And of course, it had to do with being the Mega Powers in 1988. If any of you watched the Hall of Fame ceremony last night, of course, Hulk was inducting Savage, all that. They talked about it. And of course, the lust for Elizabeth, and Macho Man, of course, had the title since WrestleMania 4. No one took it from him. And Hulk Hogan, of course, beat Macho Man fair and square. And then the bad of WrestleMania 5 was Martel's double cross. Part of Strike Force for Tito Santana, Rick Martel from Quebec City was pretty much a nice guy, and all that. And then he turned on Tito Santana and became a heel for the rest of his WWE career. And the ugly was Morton Downey Jr. in general, being a jerk to Roddy Piper and getting his face sprayed with a fire extinguisher. That was beautiful. WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. The good was, well, it wasn't the Ultimate Warrior's win. I know you'll be surprised, but the good is Andre's face turn. When Andre the Giant and Haku, the Colossal Connection, lost the tag titles to Demolition. And of course, Bobby the Brain Heenan slaps Andre, and then Andre paintbrushes Heenan and beats up on Haku after the match. He turns face. What people don't realize was that Andre the Giant never wrestled in a match in WWE after that. Ironically, I talk about the body slam video. Like Andre, the last time Andre was fully body slammed was Ultimate Warrior in a house show in Toronto, October 1989 at Maple Leaf Gardens, which is strange because in Toronto, ironically, Andre the Giant had his last match. He wrestled in Japan, but that was it. Of course, he was having his issues. with his acromegaly or his pituitary or gigantism or whatever you want to call it. The bad was Warrior wins. Well, of course, I would like to make it a co-good but I mean, Hulk Hogan was the face of WWE for so many years, and for Warrior to win, well, the bad part was that both titles were on the line. I mean, they should have just made it a non-title match, because Ultimate Warrior had to, well, good on him that he kept the WWE belt till Royal Rumble 91, but of course he couldn't hold both titles, WWE and the Intercontinental belts, and of course that led to so many Intercontinental changes and all that. Mr. Perfect, I think, had a few of them. Actually, a honorable mention for good / bad, like it's right down the middle, was Bret Hart and Jim Anvil Neidhart. The Hart Foundation beating Bolsheviks in 20 seconds. They did jump the Bolsheviks and pin them. Of course, that gave them a title opportunity against Demolition, and I think they got it somehow. Anyway, and the ugly was sensational. The matchup between Sensational Sherry and Macho Man Savage as a team, or what Savage was known as the Macho King, against Sapphire and Dusty Rhodes. It was a good idea, but it just didn't feel excitement with me watching that WrestleMania. Sapphire ended up being a footnote, as Ted DiBiase actually did buy her services after all. WrestleMania 7, the good, well, the WrestleMania 7 from the LA Sports Arena, the good was Hulk over Sergeant Slaughter. Now, I know that the rules of the good, bad, and ugly is that no storyline can have two or more of the headings, the good, bad, and the ugly. So when Hulk beat Sergeant Slaughter, of course Sergeant Slaughter came back to the WWE in 1990 and turned out to be an Iraqi sympathizer, even though he was part of a G.I. Joe line of figurines, if I remember correctly. Well, this would have been honor mention for the ugly, was that what happened is, if you watch WrestleMania 6 on DVD or on the WWE Network for $9.99, oops, well, it would be right if it's the Americans, but Canada is $11.99 a month. And Canada didn't get the WWE Network till late August of last year. Now it's all across the board. But anyway, Hulk beats. What happened is, there's two different stories on why the LA well, if you watch the DVD, you see the promos for WrestleMania 7 from the LA Coliseum. Usually they don't tell what where next year's WrestleMania is going to be. So anyway, it was supposed to be at the LA Coliseum, which holds about 90 to 100,000 people, and it's hosted like USC of football and the Olympics and all that. But unfortunately, two stories came through. Though the story that I learned just this week was that it was sent to the sports arena because of bad ticket sales, where in fact I was led to believe that WrestleMania 7 was put at the sports arena because of so many death threats, and being in the Persian Gulf era and being outdoors, that WWE were going to be scared that someone was going to take Sergeant Slaughter's head off or something like that. They could have still did it indoors. But anyway, Sergeant Slaughter got his starts. The bad was the retirement match between Savage and Warrior. It seemed to be that it was just an impasse. Macho Man lost the match, but he got Elizabeth in the end. Elizabeth saved him from a beatdown from Sensational Sherry. So because of Elizabeth's involvement, it was decreed that it was on the bad side, not on the ugly side. The ugly side of WrestleMania 7 was this Japanese tag team of Tenryu and Koji Kitao. But Koji Kitao used to be a sumo wrestler, ex-Yokozuna, in fact, called Fuji Hagura or something like that. I can't remember. Fujimabea. No, it's Fuji Hagura. And he actually was the first Yokozuna to be banished from sumo in 1987 because he had some disagreements with his stable master, and he slapped the stable master's wife. He had like a year and a half of being a Yokozuna, and well, the Japanese Sumo Association said they hastened putting him as a Yokozuna because of, I think, Kitano no Umi or whatever. I don't know. There was another Yokozuna, who actually ended up retiring, and they wanted to fill the void. So that failed. WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis, well, I'll talk about Indianapolis later, but the good, bad, ugly. The good was the Intercontinental match, not the WWE title between Flair and Savage, even though Flair deserved to lose. Now, speaking of that match, that everyone wanted it be Flair and Hogan, because that would have been amazing, because Ric Flair was the WWE champion after winning the Royal Rumble 92, after the title was vacated by Tunney because of the controversy surrounding both Undertaker and Hulk Hogan's wins in late 1991. They wanted Flair and Hogan, but because, I don't know why, Sid Justice actually ended up wanting to face Hulk Hogan in a match, because Hulk helped Flair eliminate Justice, even though they were best friends. So that was the co-main event, which I'll talk about later. But anyway, the Intercontinental match between Bret Hart and Roddy Piper was big. Piper only had one major title in his WWE career, and that was the Intercontinental belt. He actually took advantage of a ill Bret Hart, because Bret Hart got sick one day, and then he challenged the Mountie for the Intercontinental belt, and of course Piper won. That was a pretty good match, Bret beating Piper categorically. The bad of it was Indianapolis. I mean, why would you go to Indianapolis? It just didn't make sense. I mean, you wanted a big building and all that. I mean, could have went to Los Angeles. I don't know what type of stadium would hold, indoor stadium would hold so many people. I mean, that's fair enough. Even go back to Pontiac. But the ugly side of WrestleMania 8 was Ultimate Warrior's run, and of course the circumstances of Warrior past and future of 1982. Now, Ultimate Warrior had the WWE title until Sergeant Slaughter got rid of him in 91. Now, there were some issues with Ultimate Warrior personally in late 91. Even though Warrior won the retirement match against Savage to stay in, Warrior had his issues, and of course he left the WWE in late 91. And then in 92, he runs in to save Hulk after Papa Shango and Sid Justice decide to try to do away with him. Now, everyone says that was botched because Papa Shango actually botched it by missing his cue to make the disqualification. Now, of course, that was planned, and then Ultimate Warrior's running. Now, Ultimate Warrior was pretty good, and he had a few good matches, including SummerSlam against Macho Man, or something. But Ultimate Warrior got a little greedy and asked, or as people call it, hold WWE ransom. Now, I don't know why I did quotes 3 times, but he held WWE ransom for a lot of money, and of course Vince didn't like that. And of course, when Warrior no-showed a few events, he was done for. And then Warrior would come back at a future WrestleMania, which I will talk about later. So that's part 1 of my WrestleMania things. There will be more parts to it, so stay tuned.